perhaps I'll stop here and see if there are any questions.
So I'm sure there are a lot of questions. Please introduce yourselves before taking the questions. Maybe I'll start with you right here. I saw your hand go first, and then we'll.
Sir, I'm Akhilesh Suman from Sansa TV. Russia and the US both are strategic partners, and in this point of time, are we playing any role talking to both US and Russia to stop the war and create a situation when there can be a congenial atmosphere in the region?
Take a few more. A couple of more. Yeah, please. Come back.
So would you like to make any comments on the sanctions being imposed on Russia? Does that bring more difficulty for us as far as our military acquisitions are concerned? Thank you. Nanima from Ukraine.
My question is regarding India's consistent position when it comes to countries' territorial sovereignty regarding this invasion of countries' territorial sovereignty. What does New Delhi has to say on that? I'm Siddhant from Beyond.
And you, fourth.
Meghna from DD News. Sir, some states have also set up control rooms. So is the MEA coordinating with the state control rooms as well? Where do those people who reach out to state control rooms, does it reach the MEA? How does it work?
I'll take one last one. Okay. I'll come back to it.
So Hasini Heather from the Hindu Foreign Secretary. We know that, as you said, there have been conversations between the EM, the European Union counterparts, the UK as well. I wanted to just touch on Nainima and Siddhant's questions on the UN Security Council resolution that the US says it is going to bring. Has India seen a draft of the resolution that is coming about? So far, India has the statements India has made have not criticized Russia, have referred to legitimate security interests of all parties, and has not actually affirmed the territorial integrity of Ukraine. So I just wanted to know if India's position on any of these is likely to change given this UNSC resolution.
So let us start with Akhilesh's question, which is, whether we are playing any role with our strategic partners. It is true that India has maintained the best of relations with all countries concerned, whether it's the United States, whether it's Russia, or whether it's the European Union. We have been in touch with all parties concerned, as you can imagine, both as a member of the Security Council, as a country with a lot at stake in that region, as a country with so many of its citizens in a vulnerable zone. We have been in close touch with all concerned. External Affairs Minister was recently where he's had a number of meetings with his interlocutors. This evening, as I said, Prime Minister will be speaking to President Putin. External Affairs Minister himself has spoken to a number of ministers from the European Union and will be speaking to those ministers, those of his counterparts who are from neighboring countries, which is very important, primarily for our own citizens and their safe evacuation out of it. So our focus in the UN Security Council has always been on de-escalation of tensions, on diplomatic dialogue as the only way forward. And we've also emphasized on the existing agreements, the Minsk agreements, the Normandy format. We've also obviously placed the highest importance to the safety and security of our nationals in the Ukraine in our statements in the UN Security Council. And so in all of this, I think we have, as I said, maintained that people need to talk to each other, the parties need to be engaged, and if there's anything that we can do to facilitate that engagement, we are more than happy to do. And I think, as we go along, we will try and be as helpful as possible. Nainima's question on sanctions on Russia, you're aware that certain unilateral sanctions were already existing as far as Russia was concerned. Some additional sanctions have been imposed by the United States, by the EU, by Australia, Japan, the UK, among others. But this is an evolving situation, as I said, and we have to see what sort of impact these sanctions will have on our own interests Clearly, we need to study this carefully because any sanctions will have impact on our existing relationship. I think it would only be correct to acknowledge that factor, but the actual impact of the sanctions needs to be studied carefully, and we will do that. Siddhant, I think you spoke about a country's sovereignty. I think that question was also asked by Suhasini when you talked about our position in the Security Council, the possibility of a UNSC resolution that would be tabled on the evolving situation. We have seen a draft resolution. I'm told that that would undergo considerable changes. We will wait to see the shape that this resolution takes before we can pronounce ourselves in the position that we would take on this issue. So it is, as I said, an evolving situation both on the ground and in the United Nations. We are at the cutting edge of many of the issues, many of the areas where these issues will be discussed and will be considered by the international community, and we will certainly play our due in that regard. Yes, yes. So, excuse me. I think Neeta had asked this question about state control rooms. I can tell you that a number of chief secretaries of states have spoken to me. Obviously, states are concerned about students, about citizens from their states who are in Ukraine. We are coordinating very closely in that regard. It's only fair to tell you that we have set up, control rooms and teams all over. We have set up the control rooms in Hungary, in Poland, in Slovakia, and Romania. All this information is out in the public domain. But early in the day, whoever contacted me, I immediately sent out the details to them in our state governments. Our external publicity division has put all this out in the public domain, and all this is information that our states can use. We are, as I said, in close touch with all concerned who have a stake in this issue, whether it is parents, whether it is family members, or whether it is state governments, members of parliament, those who are concerned about this. And I just mentioned, Prime Minister chaired a meeting, is chairing a meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Security. They are examining all aspects of the situation, in particular, what sort of assistance, what sort of support that we can render to our citizens in this time of need. And clearly, involving the state governments in this activity is a part of that effort.
Thank you, sir. Next round of question I'll take here. Yeah, then I'll come to you.
सर मैं मनीष हूँ TV9 भारतवर्ष से मेरा सवाल यह है कि बहुत सारे पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स भी ये कह रहे हैं कि अगर हम लोगों ने थोड़ा पहले एक्शन लिया होता, जैसा आपने खुद ही बताया कि 1 महीने पहले ही हमने डेटा कलेक्ट कर लिया था, लेकिन एडवाइजरी 15 फरवरी को निकली थी, तो क्या अगर हमने थोड़ा पहले एक्शन लिया होता तो शायद हम ज्यादा से ज्यादा स्टूडेंट्स को निकाल पाते और अभी हालात थोड़े बेहतर होते। एंड चूंकि आप लैंड बॉर्डर का सर आप डिस्कस कर रहे थे, थोड़ा डिटेल अगर दे देंगे कि बच्चे कैसे उन चारों नेबर कंट्री जो लैंड बॉर्डर्स हैं वहां तक कैसे पहुंचेंगे, क्या वो रूट सेफ है?
Sir, Shri from the Bloomberg, sir, two quick questions. One, sir, what is the kind of message we are likely to carry to Russia when the Prime Minister is expected to speak? And secondly, sir, we have heard the Ukrainian ambassador to India saying that they're disappointed with India's stand. Is there a reaction to that or a clarification to that, sir?
Sir, Maha Siddiqui from CNN News 18. Sir, is the call by the Prime Minister to the Russian President Vladimir Putin being made at the request of Ukraine, or is India making this call because India at the moment is also a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council?
Sir, over here. Thanks now, Shringla. Sir, you said Prime Minister is speaking with the President of Russia, Mr. Putin, tonight. Is he going to make any other calls to any other major leaders either today, tonight, or sometime tomorrow morning?
संदीप न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया से। सर, नॉर्मली सिचुएशन में जब इवैक्यूएशन होता है तो एयरफोर्स को भी इन्वॉल्व किया जाता है। क्या ऐसी सिचुएशन है कि एयरफोर्स को भी इस इवैक्यूएशन में जो है आप लोग शामिल करने जा रहे हैं?
सर, हाँ, पहले मैं मनीष जी का प्रश्न का उत्तर देना चाहता हूं। ये स्थिति जो हम देख रहे हैं, ये काफी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड सिचुएशन है। इसमें जो अगर हम देख सकते थे कि कैसे इवॉल्व होता था, तो शायद और भी देशों जो इन्वॉल्व है इसमें, वो भी उसी हालत से उसी प्रकार से देख सकते थे। तो ये मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि ये इवॉल्विंग सिचुएशन बनने के कारण से एग्जैक्ट एक्शन ने कहा, मतलब बाद में जो आप अगर हम रेट्रोस्पेक्ट में देखें तो हमें लगेगा कि एक्शन पहले भी ले सकते थे, पर सिचुएशन कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है और इवॉल्विंग है, उसी हिसाब से हमने अपने मतलब प्रिपरेशंस किए थे। ये भी देखना होगा कि काफी हमारे जो स्टूडेंट्स थे उनको एडवाइजरी देने के बावजूद भी वो देख रहे थे कि अगर क्लासेस मिस होंगे, अगर क्लासेस ऑफलाइन होंगे तो क्लासेस उसके भी मतलब नतीजा होगा उनके ऊपर, और क्या ऑप्शंस थे उनके, क्या उपाय थे। तो इसमें हमने काफी इनके साथ हम इनके साथ संपर्क में थे, इनको एडवाइस देते रहे, और जैसे मैंने कहा जो वहां से निकलना चाहते थे वो निकल गए, जिसको फैसिलिटेट करना था हमने फैसिलिटेट करवाया। और एडवाइजरीज भी अगर आप देखें 15 तारीख को जो एडवाइजरी इशू हुआ था, जिसमें हमने कहा कि यू कुड इंडियन सिटीजन, नॉन एसेंशियल इंडियन सिटीजन कैन लीव द कंट्री, तो हमने काफी एडवांस नोटिस दिया था इसमें। तो मेरे ख्याल से जो सिचुएशन आज है वो इवॉल्विंग सिचुएशन के कारण से है, और ये भी हम कह सकते हैं कि जो हमारे जो नागरिकों का सुरक्षा है, उनके वेलबींग है, और उनके जो इवैक्यूएशन के जो अरेंजमेंट्स हैं वो हम पूरी तरह संभाल लेंगे, और इसमें कोई घबराने की बात नहीं होगी। और जो सेफ रूट्स हैं जैसे आपने कहा वो भी आइडेंटिफाई हो गए। मैंने आपको बताया था कि बाय रोड अगर कीव से आपको जाना हो तो पोलैंड के लिए 9 घंटे का रास्ता है और रोमेनिया के लिए करीब 12 घंटे का रास्ता। तो वो रास्ता भी मैप आउट हो गया है, और वो रास्ते में जो पॉइंट्स मैंने बताया जैसे कि लिवीव है, चेरनोवित्स्की है, वहां भी हमने हमारे टीम्स जो रशियन स्पीकिंग ऑफिसर है वो टीम्स हम भेज रहे हैं, वो वहां पे होंगे, ताकि वहां से भी जो मदद और सहायता हम दे सकते हैं हमारे नागरिकों को वो हम जरूर देंगे। विथ रिगार्ड टू आई थिंक सुधीर रंजन जी's question about message to or the conversation between our PM and Russian President, I think it would be difficult to let us say guess in advance as to what nature of that conversation would be. I think we could certainly say that President Putin would provide his perspective on the situation, that he would brief the Prime Minister, and I think that conversation would obviously be around the situation that we see today. But beyond that, to try and second guess what would be the conversation, I think right now would be not correct. But needless to say, as the conversation takes place, we will be keeping you informed of the nature of that conversation. There was a question about same. I think you had asked about the disappointment expressed by the Ukrainian ambassador. Honestly speaking, we have been in touch with him. We have been in touch with many of our diplomatic colleagues. I did not see any disappointment that he had expressed as far as we are concerned, and we will certainly, as I said, in touch at very, very high levels. The External Affairs Minister is expected to speak to the Ukrainian Foreign Minister this evening, tonight, and obviously, we are speaking to all concerned. So I don't think there should be any sense that we are speaking to one party and not to other. I think Maha's question was again, whether the call, I think the call was in the behest, you said, of Ukraine. Well, I mean, the conversation is taking place because of the reasons I mentioned. We have a stake in the situation. We are a concerned party, as both a country that has close relations with Russia, with Ukraine, with the European Union, with all concerned. We also have stakes in the region, economic stakes. We have people involved. Our citizens are there. We are members of the UN Security Council. I mean, all of these factors are relevant to that conversation that is taking place. Sanjoy, you said, are there any other calls expected? Again, it's premature. Obviously, there will, in the days to come, there will be conversations, and we will, be open to any such interaction with any of our colleagues in the international community. And Sandeep ji, आपने पूछा कि ऐसे स्थितियों में इंडियन एयरफोर्स को सूचना दी जाती है. आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा. हमने मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ डिफेंस के साथ, हम मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ डिफेंस के साथ संपर्क में हैं. उनको हमने पूरी सूचना दी है कि क्या स्थिति है और क्या इवॉल्विंग सिचुएशन है. और हमने ये भी कहा है कि अगर ज़रूरत पड़े तो हमारी एयरलिफ्ट कैपेसिटी की मतलब प्रोविजन रखना होगा उनको. और अगर ऐसी स्थिति हो तो हमारी एयरफोर्स की एयरक्राफ्ट भी वहाँ पे जा सकती है. पर हमारी और भी उपाय हैं, जैसे कि हमारे कमर्शियल एयरक्राफ्ट है. तो ऑल ऑप्शंस आर ऑन द टेबल.
So thank you very much for that. I think we'll you have one. Okay, we'll take second question, please. Just take the last couple of questions.
नीरज राजपूत ABP न्यूज. सर, जिस तरह की परिस्थितियां बन रही हैं, हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि रशिया किस तरह से इमर्ज करके आ रहा है, और रशिया की जो संबंध है चीन के साथ बहुत अच्छे संबंध हैं, और पाकिस्तान के प्रधानमंत्री भी आज रूस में ही थे. तो ये क्या इस यूक्रेन क्राइसिस के बाद जो नया वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर होगा तो वो भारत के लिए किसी तरह से कोई चिंता का सबब बन सकता है? किस तरह से देखते हैं आप इस नए वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर को?
Okay. Okay, last question, definitely.
क्या
नाम
जयप्रकाश दैनिक जागरण से सर, क्या जो अपने विदेश मंत्री रूस के विदेश मंत्री से भी बात कर रहे हैं या बात करने की योजना है आज?
तो एक तो मैं जयप्रकाश जी को सीधा बता सकता हूं कि जब प्रधानमंत्री की बात हो रही है रूस के राष्ट्रपति के साथ, तो यही हाईएस्ट लेवल पे बात चल रही है. वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर जो आपने कहा, जो नीरज जी ने कहा, जरूर स्थिति बदल गया है. ग्लोबली टेंशन्स, तनाव की हमने देखा है कि काफी मतलब इसमें स्थिति काफी गंभीर हो गई है. ये परिस्थिति में हम क्या कर सकते हैं? हमारे जितने भी ऑप्शंस हैं वो सब खुले हैं. सभी के साथ हमारे संबंध हैं, सभी के साथ हमारे संपर्क भी है, और जो करना है हमारे हित में, हमारे देश के हित में और हमारे नागरिकों के इंटरेस्ट में हम जरूर करेंगे.
So thank you very much for your presence here today, sir. Glad you could make out time from today to brief the general community. I also would like to thank the presence of Dr. Adarsh Swaikar, Joint Secretary.
Well, there you saw the Foreign Secretary sharing a lot of information and then addressing questions of the media there as well, because a lot of anxiety is built up. People have a rash of questions that were asked over there. But if you look at the upshot of what the Foreign Secretary had to say, he had very clear things to say in terms of how India is approaching this entire matter, this situation as it is still developing. One, of course, there will be a conversation at the highest level. Prime Minister Modi will be speaking